continue our last part of general pharmacology, where we have drug development, clinical trials, our pharmacovigilance, ADR, all those things, all the extra remaining parts. So first let's start with drug development. So if we want to form a new drug, how we need to do? So let us see step one by one. So first we need to do a preclinical trial, that is we make a protocol, mainly because it's a preclinical we can't directly go to any human. So first we'll try on animals. So protocol is nothing but a document to mention every detail of a drug, and it is later submitted to animal ethical community because it is done in animals, and it gives a permission to conduct the preclinical trial under CPCSE. It's a guideline. So under this guideline only we need to do this. And next after that we'll go to the clinical trials. So clinical trials, on this also we'll make a protocol and submit it to the human ethical committee. So there we are doing on animals, so animal committee. Now here on human, so human ethical committee. It also gives permission to conduct the clinical trials under the GCP guidelines. So there we have CPSC guidelines for animals, and for humans we have GCP guidelines. GCP means good clinical practice. So next we need to register the trial with ICMR, and next we need to also take permission from DCGI and start our clinical trials. So in a clinical trials we'll start with the phase 1 trial. So phase 1 trial we mainly test here the toxicity of the drug, because safety is present in all the three phases of drug trials. But first phase we need to mainly see the toxicity, whether it's toxic or not, because if it is toxic then we will stop the drug in the phase 1 itself. So first we need to check the toxicity. So this phase 1 clinical trial is also for checking of safety, but toxicity is given more importance when compared with safety. And next we will see mainly here the maximum tolerable dose, how to design the dose range. So all this we will check here. So it is also known as, that is phase 1 is also known as human pharmacology and toxicity study. So human pharmacology and toxicity study is phase 1. And here we have open label trials. The control used here is mainly placebo, and duration it takes about 1 to 2 years, and the participants are normally healthy volunteers, mainly taken 20 to 100 volunteers for the first run. And it mainly, phase 1 mainly determines the pharmacokinetics and also dynamics. So remember, both kinetics and dynamics always seen in phase 1 only. So here we have some exceptions, like in patients also we do this trial. Mostly we take normal healthy individual, there is about 20 to 100, but in some exceptions like for diseases, not diseases, for drugs like anti-cancer drugs, anti-HIV drugs, here we take mainly patients as clinical trials. So now we'll move on to phase 2. In phase 2 we mainly determine the dose range. So in phase 1 we mainly determined here the maximum tolerable dose. Here phase 2 we will mainly determine the dose range. So here also we have safety and efficacy. So safety and efficacy may be open or blinded in RCTs. And remember that phase 2 the number of patients here are 100 to 500, and duration is done for about 2 to 3 years. And the safety and efficacy is determined in comparison to control. So the control here we use is placebo or standard drug, but standard drug is used more. Next, coming to maximum drug failure, it is seen mainly in phase 2. About 75% of drugs fail in phase 2. So this phase 2 is also called as therapeutic exploratory trial. Next, coming to phase 3. Phase 3 is replica of phase 2. Here the more number of patients are taken into trial, and so that as we take more number of patients there is less chance of error. And phase 3 is also safety and efficacy is confirmed as compared to control. Standard drug is used as a control when compared with placebo, and here even the safety and efficacy are open or blinded. So here RCT is controlled, that is random controlled or random uncontrolled. But remember, in phase 2 it is only randomless, only controlled CT. Here UCT also uncontrolled, and the patients may be around 500 to 3000. So here thousands of patients, there are only hundreds of patients, and duration it may take around 3 to 5 years to confirm it. So it is also called therapeutic confirmatory trial, because here we now need to confirm the drug safety. So it is therapeutic confirmatory trial. So for example, if we need now after this all these phases, we will confirm our new drug. So the new drug is given application and it is submitted to FDA in the US and also CDSO in India, in New Delhi mainly, and the Center for Drug and Standard of Control Organization, and permission is given for the marketing. So after permission we will proceed to phase 4 sometimes. Phase 4 is a post marketing surveillance which is mainly used to learn the new uses of a new drug, new routes, new age groups and new dose range. And also it is an open label and many thousands of patients are given for this phase 4, and we need to follow up the patients, and the drug interactions can be seen, because now this is a new drug with our other old drugs, how it is having interactions. And also we will see ADR for the long term or also maybe rare. So this is all about our phase 4. Next, let us see what are the process for phase 4. So in phase 4 we also have effectiveness can be known and post marketing surveillance. Company needs to submit the PSUR to CDSO and usually once a year, and there is no specific duration in phase 4, that is till how many years we need to do. Next, recent advances in clinical trials. So it is mainly non-mandatory. Here we have different phases, like again phase 0, phase 5. So here phase 0, in the name itself you can understand that phase 0 is nothing but before the phase 1. So what happens in phase 0 is the drug which we give in a form of dose is about 100 micrograms or 100 normal dose. So it is radioligand connected. So now we add a radioligand to it, and in a normal healthy volunteer we give this phase 0 experiment. So here we can see both pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamics which are determined, and anything is abnormal then we immediately abort or stop the clinical trial. So this is phase 0 is nothing but before phase 1. So this is a very critical step of our drug success, means our drug is successful or not. So this drug phase 0 is also called as microdosing, because we are only giving very microgram of drug. So this is also known as microdosing. Next, let us move on to phase 5. Phase 5 is called pharmacoepidemiology, because it is used for the case control or also to cohort studies, case control study. So this is done only after only for few drugs, because this is after phase 4. Most of the drugs stop in phase 4. For phase 5 we do only for the particular drugs which are like having more toxicity or any other defects or any abnormality. So only those drugs are considered in phase 5. Next, let us move on to pharmacogenetics and genomics. So how to differentiate these both? So genetics, in the name you can understand genes are involved which play an important role in it. And genes mainly code for receptors, enzymes, and why the genes are related with drugs, because on receptor enzymes which are the target for the drugs, where the drugs come and act upon. So what happens if the genes are normal, then the receptors and enzymes are normal, then the target also will be normal for the drug, so that we can give normal dose of drug. But in the case if the genes are abnormal, that is in the case there may be more or less powerful, then the receptors and enzymes also will be abnormal. So now if we give the normal drug dose, it will not work, so it leads to drug failure. So for example, if the receptors and genes are working less and we give the normal dose of drug, it will lead to drug toxicity, because the drug accumulates in the body. And variable effects of the drug cases are there are variable effects of drug based on the genes. This is known as idiosyncratic reaction, which I have seen in adverse drug reactions, right? So coming to pharmacogenetics, what is this genetics? It is the effect of genes on the drug. So this is the definition, effect of genes on the drug. So now let us see what is pharmacogenomics. It is an application, that is individualization of drug therapy based on the pharmacogenetics. That is nothing but for example, if we have said here that if the drug is low if the receptors and genes are low, then drug's toxicity takes place, and if it is high then drug failure takes place. So like this application, so now I will adjust the dose of the drug. For example, if it is less, then I will also decrease, if the receptors and genes are working less, then I will also reduce the dose of the drug. And if they are having drug failure, that is most of it losing, then I will add more drug dosage. So now this adjustment of drug dosage here, it is an application for this based on the genetics, so pharmacogenetics. So this is nothing but pharmacogenomics, that is it is a individualization of drug therapy based on pharmacogenetics. So now let us see the examples of pharmacogenetics. That is, here we have target polymerization, which may increase or decrease. So we have several examples to understand this. For example, we have a gene VKORC1 gene polymorphism. Here vitamin K actually converts into vitamin active form of vitamin K by VKOR. This is a vitamin K oxidoreductase enzyme which converts the vitamin K into active form of vitamin K, and in turn this activates the gamma carboxylase, and which activates all the platelet factors. You can see 2, 7, 9 and 10, and they activate the protein maybe C or protein S. So we can inhibit this VKOR by a drug known as warfarin. So this, you can see this is a negative, it is inhibiting this process of VKOR. So if the VKOR gene is normal, then normal warfarin amount we can give and it will act. But whenever this VKOR gene is differing, that is it is increasing or decreasing, then warfarin also we need to increase and decrease it according to this. So now you can understand the scenario. For example, this inhibits it, so all these proteins, all these processes decrease, so the effect is decreased finally on these proteins. So whenever we increase the warfarin, then all this process increases. So by this you can understand so how we can adjust the dose according to the thing. And remember that the variable effect of warfarin is by monitored PT or INR. And next let us see RYR gene polymorphism. So here what happens is, you can see RYR, this is a endoplasmic reticulum. Inside, it is having more amount of calcium, right? So whenever this RYRR receptors are present on here, for example in normal endoplasmic reticulum there are 2 receptors, and you can see if you give local anesthetic like lidocaine or halothane or succinylcholine muscle relaxant, then what happens, this RYR gets activated, these receptors get activated and they release the calcium from the endoplasmic reticulum or sarcoplasmic reticulum. As the calcium get out, and also again by the process of calcium ATPase, this gets inside, so that ATP is used. So for example in abnormal case, when RYR gene is abnormal, then it becomes, for example, it becomes more powerful. When it is more powerful, you can understand there are more receptors of RYR. So as the receptors increase, the drug increase the extra receptors. So drug also go and bind with the extra receptors. So now what happens, there is a flood of calcium from the endoplasmic reticulum which initiate this. So now they go back, again they need to go back by calcium ATPase, right? So here the ATP is now so much decreased because here lots of ATP is used to bring this calcium back to the endoplasmic reticulum. So what happens, there is huge lot of ATP, and whenever ATP is lost more, there is rise in temperature which is leading to malignant hyperemia, which is a pharmacogenetic condition. This is important. Malignant hyperthermia, you can understand, increasing the temperature. So now we will see the third type, that is ACE gene polymorphism. It is mainly decrease the ACE inhibitors so that receptors are decreased and the effect is also decreased. Next, coming to beta 2 polymorphism. Here also there is decreased effect of beta 2 so which is activated. And next let us see HMG CoA reductase polymorphism. Here also the effects are decreased because of mainly statins. So that decrease effects of statins, because statin only acts upon HMG CoA. And in beta 2 polymorphism there is decreased effect of beta 2 receptors. And next coming to enzymatic polymorphism. In enzymatic we have CYP2D6 polymorphism. Here there is less powerful. Here it is divided into metabolites and activates. So it metabolizes the drugs of psychiatry, mainly antidepressant, antipsychotics. These drugs are very toxic drugs. So this CYP2D normally it metabolize it and remove from the body. So what happens if this is defective? Then it may lead to toxicity because these drugs are not metabolized. So whenever there is decreased CYP2D6 gene, it increases enzyme, then it increases toxicity. So this is genotyping, which is mainly mandatory. So this genotyping is mandatory in the Mayo Clinic, which is given and reset up in US. So and it also activates the tamoxifen, that is, in turn activates endoxifen and inhibit the endoplasmic reticulum in the breast, so that there is less risk of breast cancer. But now, as this CYP2D6 is less powerful, so there is high chances of breast cancer when there is low amount of CY2D6. And next, let us move on to our now we are having our second one, that is CYP2C9 gene polymorphism. So this may increase or decrease, and it mainly metabolize the warfarin, and if in its effects also may increase or decrease. So these are variable effect, maybe VC or C1 and CYD2C9. These are showing gene polymorphism, and 25% of the population are having this variable effects. So we need to be always careful before giving a drug to a patient who is having this kind of gene polymorphisms. And next, coming to third one of enzyme is CYP2C19 polymorphism. It is mainly a decreasing type, that is whenever it decreases the clopidogrel for actually normally it is given for infarction and stroke. So whenever this is decreased, it shows a decrease effect, and there is high risk of again recurrent MI or stroke. So CYP2 activates the anti-aggregants, that is clopidogrel. It's a normal function. Whenever it is decreased, it may lead to again risk of stroke and MI. Next, coming to butyl cholinesterase polymorphism. It is also known as plasma cholinesterase or pseudocholinesterase. So here what happens, it is mainly metabolizing the muscle relaxants like succinylcholine and choline normally, but whenever this effect is decreased, then succinylcholine is decreased, and increased effect and prolonged apnea is seen in these patients. And next, coming to G6PD polymorphism, it is decreasing type. So decreased G6PD, it leads to hemolysis, and you can remember like what are the drugs which are causing this. You can remember like Manis, that is Menadione or vitamin K. A for anti-malarias, like you have primaquinol, it is most better, and you have tefenoquine and chloroquinone, and in N you like nalidic acid and neurofurantoin, and I you have isoniazid as sulfonamide dapsone. So next, coming to N-acetyl transferase polymorphism. This also may decrease or increase. If it is divided into NAD1 and NAD2. If NAD1 is increased, then lead to fast acetylase like drug failure, and NAD2 is decreased, then slow acetylase, that is drug toxicity. So example here, isoniazid, which metabolites hepatotoxicity, and its isoniazid itself causes peripheral neuropathy. It is mainly seen in slow acetylators, and in fast acetylators you can see that is causing hepatotoxicity. Next, moving on to therapeutic drug monitoring. What is this? This is also short form TDM. Its principle is the plasma concentration of drug should have the good correlation with either the effect or side effect of the drug. So TDM alone is done after 4 to 5 t-half passed, so after achieving a steady state concentration. Indications are like if the clinical effect of the drug can't be measured, example anti-epileptic effect, and if the clinical effect of the drug can be easily measured, example you can take no TDM is done in the case of beta blockers, like BP is measured, oral hypoglycemic like blood glucose, and warfarin per PT and INR. And TDM is costly process, so we need to prevent it. And low therapeutic index, that is example you got theophylline, lithium dioxide, which are most important, and the others are like anti-epileptics, antipsychotics, antidepressants, aminoglycoside, methotrexate, cyclosporin, tacrolimus, etc. Next, coming to check the compliance, example you can take antipsychotics. And next, to prevent the organ or fetal damage, example you can take aminoglycosides for nephrotoxic, pseudomonas infection, and renal failure. It is used mainly, even though it has side effect like nephrotoxic, but to prevent this pseudomonas with renal failure, we need to give this aminoglycoside. So here the TDM is positive to minimize the renal failure. And in a female with epilepsy and valproate is given and she is planning pregnancy, then we give the drug free internal, that is in seizures and no seizures condition. In seizures the drug of choice is levetiracetam or lamotrigine and clonazepam, but levetiracetam is most useful in the case of seizures. And if it's no seizures, then drug free pregnancy. If pregnant, then never stop or change the drug because continue valproate along with TDM. So drugs with variable effects, like example drug metabolized by acetylation. Now let us see ADR and pharmacovigilance. So ADR is nothing but it's potentially harmful or unpleasant reaction associated with the use of a drug, so which warrants avoidance of future use of the drug. So there are many types, and decrease the dose of the drug or stop the drug altogether. So we need to treat the through ADR, we need to treat the ADR. So what are different types? We have type up to E type, like alphabet. So type A is augmented, A for A augmented. Example, we have calcium channel blockers for head and causing side effect as headache, and alpha 1 blockers have causing postural hypertension. And remember that type A is dose dependent. And next coming to type B, that is B for bizarre. Example, beta lactam drug causing hypersensitivity, and this is also dose dependent. Coming to type C, C for chronic use. Example, HPA suppression using steroids, dose and time dependent. Type C is. Next coming to type D, it is delayed. Example, you can have teratogenicity, carcinogenicity, and you have tardive dyskinesia, which is a side effect. Next coming to type E, you have end of use, that is withdrawal symptoms. Example, opioids, clonidine, increase the Next we have type F failure. Example, rifampicin causing OCP failure. And next we have PVPI, that is Pharmacovigilance Program of India, which is a national coordinating center, that is NCC IPC in Ghaziabad, UP. So mainly patient with ADR in the medical college or hospital or government or private, they report to them, we give treatment for ADR or report the ADR. And it is having a RigiFlow software which sends the info to NCC and conducts ADR report and gives a conclusion of ADR report to CDSC SO, which again informs to the company, and also it informs ADR to international international companies also. First they inform the companies and the drug is banned immediately, and company will now withdraw the drug from the market, and the drug of choice also informed along with it also informs to the patients. So when the drug is banned, it is most commonly it is causing most commonly hepatotoxicity. So whenever it is informed to the international associations like PVC in Sweden, it is the largest database of ADR, that is VigiBase, and in Sweden it also next sends the info to monitoring center and spread to the whole world. So the main aim of this pharmacovigilance is to maintain the drug safety in the society. So this is all about our completion of a general pharmacology important points.